So I'm here just outside of the main street in Mandalo with Edgar. He's brought me to a place he used to come 12 years ago when he was a kid. And he's shown me the massive expansion that is here. There's construction going on everywhere. And of course, with construction, you have construction waste, and it's really, it's just everywhere. It's just dumped everywhere, and plastic. And obviously, we all understand that the construction needs to happen, or doesn't need to. We want bigger, we want better. When we earn money, this is what happens. It's the vicious cycle. But what are we doing with the waste products? They just sit there, and they end up in our lands. Is there any reason why some places suffer drought? Because if they actually did have water here right now, all of this cement, everything would be going into their soil. So I started to think maybe this lack of rain that they've had for a number of years is actually really good for them, because with the way that the land is being treated right now, it's just going to go straight into their natural springs, which are under the mountain. And Eka was saying that, I'm going to flip you around, to show you this. 20 years ago, none of this existed. It was very, and the difference in energy here, in the local village, from the main strip, it's just so much more peaceful, even though there's building going on everywhere. I'm about to get run over, so let me just move out of the middle of the road. I'm sure the people here are thinking bloody tourists, and I get it. So I feel very, very blessed to see a different side of the island, it's great that people are trying to better their lives and everything else, but once again, we're bettering our lives at the cost of Mother Earth. If governments want growth in these islands and countries that didn't have these kind of lifestyles at one point, then what are they doing with regards to how we dispose of this stuff? Where's the programs that create something to make sure that Earth stays as pure as it possibly can? Because since I've been traveling and I've seen the expansion, all I can see is people just dumping construction waste out in the mountains, out where people can't see it. And I learn more and more stories about how others are seeing this as well. And even stories about how governments are creating false areas for tourists to see as their island. It's all sorts of interesting what's going on in the world, and I'm looking forward to traveling more and learning more. And hopefully, one day I'll meet someone who, can tell me how they do it in their country, and who knows what's going to happen. All I know is that I'm here to see what I see, and I'm very grateful to be here right now, because this is not a normal tourist place. I'm going to take some video, and you'll see a very different side to where I was in the tourist strip. So, heat of the day, people here sit under the trees. Well, what happens when there's construction? Yeah? There's no trees anymore. Actually got me thinking about when I did my owner build, and the responsibility we had to get rid of our rubbish. And there was one day where there was this massive 3 or 4 days of rain and wind, and one of the building companies had come in and put the polystyrene blocks in to do the waffle slab. And let's just say that polystyrene ended up miles away from where it originally was. And you could still see pieces of that polystyrene caught in the trees weeks later. You know what, people? The change that we need is for companies to start taking some responsibility for their waste. Cigarette companies, building companies. Give a solution for this. It's not just a consumer buys it. Where is the thought process of how you dispose of it? So, that's the change I'm praying for right now, is have some actual accountability of the products that we're producing. couple of places here a few years ago. And as you see down here, you know, eating into the mountain as well. It's beautiful. So, you know, this is reality here. Yeah. Does he need food?
Yes.
We get some bananas. Go back. You gotta make sure that you look after everyone. This little bud was skinny as, and this is the best I can do. There's no fresh meat here. So we just got some meal from the local shop, and this beautiful lady brought out a bowl as well. And here's another one. He's well fed. He's looked after and loved. Hey customer. Hey buddy. Enjoy. Ciao darling. Is this a school, Eper?
No, it's a place to help kids with problems.
So this is like a special needs kind of place? Yeah. This is interesting. As you can see, they're building into the mountain there as well. Yeah, interesting place. Lots of lots of evidence of the class divide here. You've literally got people eating out of bins in one direction, and then driving expensive Prados with tourism stickers all over them in another. This is a football pitch. So yeah, ready to go back now and I guess contemplate and think. It's the hardest part about doing these kind of trips, is to see the truth, because I guess maybe a lot of us have been taught to put our heads in the sand. Maybe that's programming, maybe, I don't know, conditioning. But I'm done with putting my head in the sand. And I know that there's a lot of other people out there that are done too, and that taking some accountability for how we've turned this world into what we've turned it into needs to happen. Locally made from, it is a fruit here that is very popular on the island. And we have some beautiful homemade, from Santantao goat's cheese, which is also very, very popular here. So, cheers.
It's beef.
It's beef. Wesley's got beef with you. How you gonna respond, Bruno?
زادك ما عملتش.
So, didn't get to go to all the islands in Cape Verde. Maybe one day I will go back, but the ones I did go to and spend more time on were definitely the more touristy ones, and I was really grateful to be there because I learned a lot of truth, and I got to, you know, speak with the guys that were actually on the streets that were living this drug-infused life that they have over there, and talk to them about what they're trained to say to the tourists, and witnessed it firsthand, and had people come and approach me, and you know, it was just a really, really valuable experience. And then to be able to have that experience and then go to somewhere like Santandao, which doesn't have that just yet, but also, you know, cite the plans for this massive infrastructure that's going in that will enable people to come from the ferry, from one of the mainlands to Santander, which is a beautiful, beautiful small fishing island. You know, the villages are just so beautiful. The kids are still playing in the streets. There's not really any sex tourism there that we saw, or any drug industry. You know, we spoke to the locals. They said, oh, we know it happens on the mainland, but there's none here. But this resort style thing is like 10 minutes from the ferry terminal. So you already know what's going to happen. The buses will go from the ferry terminal straight to the resorts, and the resorts will be this luxurious resort. And we saw it. It's massive. And this island doesn't really have any flat area as to where they're building this. So you drive through the roads and the mountain, and you see this long driveway that they're carving out, which is where the resort is going. And there's going to be like the water sports, the restaurants, and everything else. So basically, people aren't going to get out and see Santander. And if they do, they're going to hire a car for a day. So the actual fishing villages, on one hand, and this is where the duality kicks in, on one hand, it protects them from the tourists. But on the other hand, it's probably going to push them out of their villages to come and work at this resort. So, you know, the young kids that are now playing on the streets, or, you know, you see them at like 9 o'clock at night, just with their grandparents, just sitting on the walls talking. There's not really that much internet there either. It's just a really, really beautiful vibe, you know, and obviously when this big resort goes in, you know what's going to happen. So yeah, it's a really interesting place to be, and I definitely recommend, if you travel to somewhere like this, find the truth, man, because you go to a place like San Vicente, which is where that video was shot, and you meet someone like Hector, and you know, he takes you around the places where, and shows you what it used to be like to what it is now, and the reasons why. And it doesn't take long for you to start putting the pieces together. You can literally be at the restaurant and you will be surrounded by young boys who are asking for milk for their sister or their baby, and they're showing you pictures. You know how this works. But, you know, we turn a blind eye to it, and we say, oh, we're not going to give them money. We're not going to do this. We'll buy them a sandwich, which is the best thing to do, by the way. But the fact is that we've created this, you know, it's opening up these islands to the tourists. Of course they see people with all the labels and the phones and the Gucci sunglasses and all the rest of it, and we create these industries for them. And what better way to make money than to either beg, do drugs, or sell your body? The sad truth is there's some islands that really hide it, and when you know what to look for, you see it. It's like your eyes are opened up and you see the truth of the Western world and why they go to these places. And it's not just Cape Verde, sadly, but more on that on another video. It was an incredible experience, an extremely humbling one, to see and hear the stories of the locals. And yeah, I asked for the truth, and that's what I got. So I'm putting a poem to this video as well. And this is a poem I wrote when I was waking up really early. The sun was coming up and there was no curtains to our place on the top of a mountain. And I just got up and I sat and I started to cry, and I felt these tears were not mine, and I started to ask the question, okay, well, where's this coming from? And then my pen was just like, you know, I've got something to write. So I did. And this poem came out, and yeah, it's about the sex tourism industry. And, you know, it may be hard for people to hear, but there are children out there doing this stuff. And you know, the guy that approached me, he couldn't have been more than 15. He was not developed in any way, you know. And yeah, well, listen to the poem, because this was my truth while I was there. And it wasn't just me, I was traveling with my beautiful friend Fabiana too. So when you travel, you either go as a vacation or you travel. One thing I have realized is that people don't have time anymore. So these big resorts are being built so people can fly in, go straight to these resorts, say they've been somewhere, pick up their token tourist stuff, take a day trip where they'll probably go to a restaurant that's, got the tick from all of the government stuff, and the government gets a massive backhander from all the takings, and the actual staff get paid like $5 to $7 a day to be working 12 hours, if not more, to please these massive groups of tourists, blah, blah, blah. The same thing that's happening in a lot of places of the world. So just be mindful when you travel, go live like a local, go and see and experience what it is for them and ask the questions. Don't be scared. There's always someone, if you ask, to find who will speak your dialect or your language. You just have to wait for them to come along. And 9 times out of 10, if you're supposed to know the truth because you're supposed to also talk about it, then you will find it. And I have found that wherever I've gone, okay, Pachamama, Mother Earth, I'm here. Tell me what I need to know. Tell me what I can write about for you. Tell me whose voices I need to express for you while I'm here on these incredible sacred lands. So enjoy the poem. And as I said, experience travel in a different way. I was sitting on the beach the other day when a young boy started approaching, blowing kisses each way, as he pursed his lips and sang a love song. A child. No more than 16, something was very wrong. His handler, I guess, nearby grooming this kid to look for Western women, sex tourism to live. The adult sat close, watching his prodigy say, I'll never forget his eyes as he approached me, his prey. And prey is the best word, as I learn more from these sacred lands dear, of European women coming to have sex from the men here. They hang around the harbours and the beaches as well, and when you know what to look for, it's pretty easy to tell. The men's wives also condone it, and they send them off to scout, as they stay at home, feeding a family, no doubt. You don't really see the women anywhere in the streets, unless they're at work, stood for hours on their feet. So as the rich ships and planes come in and the locals hang around, after all the Western money has chosen to invest in these islands found. There was another experience as we sat in the sunlight. Another scenario became clearer as we waited for the night. Sat in a restaurant watching a girl all made up, with fake labels, tight clothing, and definitely dressed to strut. Told to leave by some Dutch men. Finally she did, and then she came back again, this time success. Her eyelids battered true, lighting up another of his cigarettes in the restaurant's full view. Touching his thigh, laughing at every word, although she barely spoke English, so who knows what she heard. The time came for him to leave back to his boat, and 5 minutes later she followed him down the jetty float, disappeared onto his yacht, climbing down under the deck, her life to please a tourist, or to that effect. So how is it different from thousands of years ago, when the natives of the islands, their bodies told to throw? For what? A claim, a baby, a possibility of a ticket to ride? Another naked soul that becomes broken inside. Is there more awareness that is needed? Evidently, in this time, from a child who wouldn't have had any hair, who approached me in the sunshine. Moving up the island after a dinner in Tarraful town, the streets were busy with men, they were all around. I needed to get cash, as in the restaurant, a card they didn't take. Our beautiful kind waiter, to the ATM, me, he walked straight. A lovely young guy, moved from the city prior to find his new turf. As we walked, he explained sex tourism and what it was worth. He never left my side. From shadows the men came to the light, protected me from those, blowing and whispering kisses into the night. In his words, your women are like bait to the hungry shark. They mean no harm, but never walk alone in the dark. Trying to find an hour, cash to exchange, but I understand it's threatening to you as they play these games. I listen to their voices, Spanish, Italian, German, and French, just trying basic phrases, calling out to me from their bench, following our every step, stopping extremely close by. This is how they spend their days, and some were so high. Honestly, it was quite intimidating as you have a group of men seeing you as a door prize or a wallet win again. We still have this happen, these abusive cycles, men and women both. More education is needed, and it's time we expose the truth. Are we that desperate to continue to create a world of hurt, another generation in trauma as the tourist and investment properties fill the dirt? It's not just these islands, but for me the experience did surprise. About the sex tourism here and the truth, not to deny.